What's up, YouTube? This is Gilbert or Lala Lakers with Dizzy Gaming, and I want to bring you guys. The NALCS is. I'm ready for it. It's starting today. I hope you guys are ready. I'm extremely excited. Obviously, hometown bias, one of my favorite regions to watch, and I'm expecting a fantastic season ahead of us. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get on to my NA power rankings. So, I'm going to be, if you're not familiar with power rankings, I'm going to be listing the teams in order. I start from the bottom, so we'll go 10 all the way up to number 1. In my opinion, how I feel they would perform at given the information that I have at this moment. So, obviously, the beginning of the season, there's a lot of unknown variables, but I'm going to try to break it down and give my explanations as to why I put them in that position. So, the way it's going to work is I'm going to list the teams in the order that I rank them, and just in case that's all you want to see, you just want to see, hey, what do you feel they're going to finish in what place? And then after I give the list, I will go through and explain my list, I guess you could say. So at number 10, I have Team 8, some of the newcomers to the league. A lot of people are equating them to the Velocity, I guess because From Maple Street is on there. But I do explain later why I feel that there is somewhat of a difference. Number 9, I have Team Dignatas, which might be extremely low compared to some power rankings I've seen out there, but I'll explain my reasoning. Number 8, Team Coast. Once again, back into the scene after being relegated in the past. Number 7, Team Gravity, or Gravity. I guess they're just known as Gravity, but that's formerly Curse Academy. Number 6, Winterfox, formerly Evil Geniuses. Number 5, Counter Logic Gaming. Number 4, Team Impulse. Number 3, TSM. Number 2, Team Liquid. And number 1, Cloud9. All right, so let's go ahead and get on to my explanations, and because I'm sure that my list differs from a lot of people out there. It really does, from what I've seen. So, Team 8 being at number 10, I don't think this should be a surprise, honestly. Team 8 is probably coming in with no expectations, you can say, outside of their own. A lot of people, as I mentioned, are equating them to the Velocity and feel that they're going to perform identical to them. I really don't feel that way. I do feel that this is a fairly weak LCS NALCS team. That being said, I don't think they're as weak as Velocity was compared at the time. I think they have a lot more strategy, like down, I guess you can say. I don't really know how how to word that better, but I feel that they do have somewhat strategic influence from their staff that shows, but it's just not at the same level as or not the same caliber as the other LCS contenders. I feel that they lack that star power. Now, Maple Street and Cali Trolls have been getting a lot of notoriety recently because, I mean, well, Maple Street, obviously Ottawa's brother, but he's a former LCS player himself with Velocity, and Cali Trolls has kind of been not carrying the team on his back, but he's been performing very well throughout the Challenger Series and then all the way up into the expansion tournament. I thought he played fairly well overall. For the most part, he was like the most consistent piece, I guess you can say. I just, but when I say they lack star power, I'm more referring to someone like a Bjergsen, like a Meteos, that can just carry his team on his back and say, all right, guys, we fucking got this. Let's do this. Make that call and say, go kill him and let's kill him. So I don't know. I guess that's a horrible way of explaining it, but you guys should know what I mean by star power. If you're familiar with sports, if you're familiar with like basketball, for example, which is my forte, Kobe Bryant brings that star power. You have that person that you can depend on. You can put your trust in them to carry the team. And I'm sure carry is a term you've all heard. And that's exactly what they can do. So I don't feel they have that on that team. And I do feel that that's going to be a huge negative on the season for them. And I do feel that they will perform very, very, very weak throughout the LCS and probably be automatically relegated to the expansion tournament or into the Challenger Series next season. So Number 9, I have Dignitas. Now, this is a team that a lot of people are putting more towards the middle of the pack. I really don't see it. I really don't see it there. From everything from what I've seen of this team, they don't seem to be on the same page. Last year, when they had the talent, I'm a Cutie Pie is a very good ADC in my opinion. For he is an LCS caliber ADC. He really is, and they have Core JJ, who they brought over, I believe, is an import if I'm not mistaken. And I just don't see that there with him. And I'm a Cutie Pie and Kiwi Kid at least had the synergy going on. I'll get to Kiwi Kid in a little bit, but I just don't see the synergy there between them. And I think that that bot lane is going to be extremely picked on from every single team, even Team 8. Every single team is going to focus that bot lane, make it a hole that they cannot cover, and that's gonna hinder Dignitas a lot. So speaking of the bot lane, Kiwi Kid has he's shown signs of being really good support. He's had flashes of really good plays. I do think that he is not an LCS caliber support, unfortunately. I don't think that he brings the consistency that you need from a bot lane to be able to protect your carry at all times. I think that's extremely underrated in professional League of Legends. Um, Mechanically, he's not even on par with a lot of the supports in the LCS right now. A couple of them from the Challenger series, I would say, are much better mechanically than Kiwi Kid is. His Annie is something to be kind of, I guess, aware of. It's something that he tends to fall back on and do perform fairly well with. So I do think we will be seeing, especially since Annie has not made a comeback, but has been seeing more appearances lately in the competitive scene. I do think that maybe he's gonna fall back to that Annie and perform decently with it. But then again, he doesn't have a Zion Spartan in the top lane. He doesn't have I'm a Cutie Pie in the bot lane with him. So I don't think it's gonna be as much of an impact. I do think that they are going to struggle in that bot lane because of Kiwi Kid specifically. And that's not any, and I don't mean to be it sounds like I'm being an asshole towards him. I think he's a hilarious person. I enjoy watching his streams from time to time. I think he seems like a really nice guy, but I'm just trying to be critical here, so I'm not trying to offend anyone. Um, Now, Crumbs and Shifter is something I do want to talk about. They kind of going back to what I was saying about Team 8, how they didn't have the star power. Dignitas does have that star power. Now, the reason I'm putting them this low is because I don't know if they're going to be able to carry the team. Shifter has carried some, in my opinion, pretty bad team in the past with Coast, and he did carry that team. He was amazing in the Challenger series. And I definitely think that he's one of the best mid laners mechanically in the NA LCS. And I put him in the top 3. So he definitely has it within him to carry this team. And Crumbs, of course, had a very good season last season. They started out very strong, and people thought they were going to contend. Then they just kind of fell off and teetered off towards the end. But Crumbs was always up there as one of the best NA junglers, and I do think he is one of the best NA junglers. That being said, you got to remember that there have been some team synergy issues with this Dignitas team in the past. They were known as Dignitas, like toss, like throw, because of their Baron calls. They have made some questionable decisions in the past, and losing talent, losing a coach and an influence like Skara, for the team environment is a big. I think that actually plays a lot bigger than most people think. Skara, not only is he a very likable character within the league community, the motherfucker has knowledge. He is very knowledgeable with this game. He brings a lot to the table, in my opinion, from a coaching standpoint. Now, of course, I'm not in the Dignitas house. I can't be like, I don't know exactly how he teaches or how he coaches or anything like that. So I can't see directly what his impact is. But as a fan, from what I've seen, I really do have a feeling that he brings a lot to the table from a coaching position. And losing him is going to be really big, in my opinion. So let's go ahead and move on to Team Coast. The first thing I want to talk about is kind of they don't have that star power once again, what I was referring to, just these past two teams. I don't feel that they have, you can say maybe Impaler Jesses, but I've yet to see it. I do think that Impaler and Jesses are pretty good. I do think that they will have their moments to shine in the LCS. Specifically Jesses, I think I'm a pretty good fan of him, but man, you got to think the meta is different at EU. You know, it's very mid lane focused, whereas in NA, I think it's more team oriented. You know, it's more about the dragon fights and warding and stuff like that. Whereas in EU, at least from my experience, what I've seen in the past, it's more carry focused. Like one person snowballing and then just picking people off and then getting objectives from there. So I'm definitely looking forward to this team. I do think that they have some decent talent on this roster. They're obviously pretty experienced. Not a lot of this team has NA LCS experience, but I do think that they have plenty of experience within competitive league that nerves or anything like that will not be a factor. I don't think that should be an issue with this team. Now, one thing I do want to mention about this team is Sheep. Sheep, who you may remember from like Vulcan, I believe was when he was probably the most was at the height of his popularity in the NALCS. He does have a lot of talent from the support role. He can really dominate some laning phases at times with his play. I've seen some really good plays from him in the bot lane, specifically during the laning phases. But that being said, I have heard that there are, and I have seen firsthand on Reddit posts and stuff, that there have been issues with Sheep, with maybe maturity or his toxicity, being toxic, not being able to get along with teammates. And with a team like this, where you have a couple imports from Europe, you have players from the challenger scene, it's kind of like there's not, since they're not already established as a really great team synergy. I think a person like that can cause problems for a team. Now, I'm not saying that he is like expect him to be kicked off the team in 2 weeks. I'm not saying that at all. But I guess when you have that tendency to cause problems, especially in a new team environment, when you're making first impressions, you're getting to know your teammates, your new family, I think that can really, really cause big problems and make small little team problems like rotations, warding, strategies into really bigger problems that it doesn't have to be. So I hope I explained that correctly. I just feel that team synergy, being able to get along is a lot bigger than people may think. There's a lot more to a League of Legends team than just what's on Summoner's Rift. And I think that should be pretty obvious by now. Gravity, a newer team name in the NALCS, but realistically, it's Curse Academy. Curse Academy's roster. I'm really excited to see this team in the LCS. I have them pretty high for on these power rankings than what most people put them at least from what I've seen. But I really have a lot of confidence in this team. Let's go ahead and start off talking about Bunny Fufu and the Cop synergy in the bot lane. Bunny Fufu has, if you remember, he did sub in for Curse. A lot of these guys are actually from Curse, but if you remember Bunny Fufu, he subbed in for a moment and before. God, who did we get after Bunny Fufu? There was a reason we kicked him off. I think it was X Special. I think it was the X Special acquisition. That's the reason why Bunny Fufu got replaced on the main Curse roster, now Team Liquid. But he was playing really well. His Thresh is very, very good. I would say it's probably the best Thresh in NA. I know X Special will probably say, fuck you, but I really feel that his Bunny Fufu is something that will draw target bans even from week one. and it's something that you just don't want to give to him because he's so comfortable on that champion. He makes plays with it from the bot lane, from the support position, and that's not only is it rare, but it's tremendously helpful. If you can have someone that's supporting your main carries, making plays, then are making huge, go for it, flash hooks, flash plays, um, ganks at level 3, that type of shit, it's really gonna be very good once you get to the later game. I definitely feel that he and Cop, also Cop, by the way, has been performing excellent in the Challenger Series. He's probably been one of the I want to say he has one of the highest KDAs, if not the highest, in the Challenger Series. Because every game I saw him in the Challenger Series, granted I didn't watch every single game, but every game I saw him, he was like 10 2 and 10 and 12, 10 2 and 12, or 9 9 1 and 0, or 9 1 and 0, 9 1 and 4, like really fucking good scores every single time I saw him. And I just think that comes from LCS experience. Now Cop was never a bad ADC, he never was. I feel that he wasn't as strong. He definitely didn't have consistency. I think that was his biggest factor. I think that that was his biggest like weakness when he was in the LCS. Now you can say, well, he was consistent. He just didn't. He would just stay in the back and fight and not fight. No, I mean he didn't have like consistent scores. He would have some games where he would perform extremely well, and then Curse fans would be like, wow, like maybe this is finally when Cop's gonna show that he can be one of the best ADCs. And then the next game he would come out 0-4 and they would lose lane pretty bad. And team fights he would just get obliterated. It's I don't think we're going to be seeing that Cop this season. I do think that this is going to be a different Cop. I think he is more focused. And that's going to be my next point with this Gravity. I do think that they, as a team, showed really great focus. Curse Academy has been in the challenger scene for a while, as long as I can remember. Back with like when they were, I don't know if it was technically Curse Academy with Night Jackie. I think it was Team Lowkeen, but nonetheless, I know Curse Academy was before Lowkeen, if I'm not mistaken. So they've been around this challenger scene for a while, and they finally made it. They finally, after all their hard work, they finally got the team together and said, all right, guys, we're doing this. And they looked fantastic in the Challenger Series. They really did. And I do think that that's a great sign to show that they can overcome obstacles as a team. This was a team that was, I think Coast was probably the favorites going into the expansion tournament. And Curse Academy showed up and said, no, we're the favorites. And they played very well. And I'm excited to see St. Vicious back in the LCS as well. Can't go make this video without saying that. I honestly wasn't a big fan of him in the past, but I do think he stepped it up. He's not forcing those Nautilus picks, although he really enjoys that champion, and I don't blame him. Nautilus is a very cool and very good champion at points, but at the highest levels of competition, you just can't bring it's very okay. I don't want to say you can't, because you can bring a very rare champion that is known to be weaker and just outperform your opponents, but it's not something you can rely on a week to week basis. That's not going to get you through the LCS. Yeah, Quas or Zekins, when he was in the league, yeah, they can play Poppy at a very, very high levels. There's a reason why you didn't see Poppy consistently. It's because eventually, going against the highest levels of competition, they're gonna realize, all right, we expect the Poppy, and they're gonna figure out how to counter that. And especially when a strong champion, like let's say for example, Sivir right now, when a strong champion gets countered, it is it is bad. Um, it's a matchup that usually the laning phase doesn't go very well, and then team fights, they do get countered, so they can tend to die a lot more. And obviously, dying in the LCS means a lot because you're not doing anything for so many seconds. But that point aside, but when you bring a weak champion and you get countered, you're usually completely shut out of the game. You have no impact on the game whatsoever, at least from what I've seen in the past. So I definitely think that, Saint has expanded his champion pool. His smites have been on point. That's something we got to talk about. His smites have actually been going very, very well. Now he has two chances, so maybe he can hit one. He has a 50% chance. Not quite, but so I'm excited for that. And one last thing I want to talk about with Gravity before I move on is Keen. Keen is a mid laner. I'm a huge fan of him. I think he is a very good mid laner. I don't want to say he's like top mid laner. I do think he has quite a bit to work on for the LCS, and I do think that he's going to have some pretty poor weeks. But he has, those. Excuse me. He has those random picks. Keen's Hecarim is amazing. He can definitely surprise people with it. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to Winterfox. Winterfox, the first thing about them that I want to mention is we got to take it back to last season. Right before Worlds, I believe it's the NA Summer Split. Man, the Evil Geniuses look good. They were on the upswing. They definitely, I want to say that they went 6-0. I want to say they finished 6-0 on the season. I definitely think that's going to carry over. Helios, another season in the NALCS. I do think he's going to be a lot more comfortable with his teammates. He of course brought in his brother. I forgot what his name is. I want to say Avalon, maybe. For the top lane. So obviously they're going to have some type of synergy. They've probably been playing together since League came out, or at least since they started playing League. So I do think that that's actually a pretty good thing. Some people say, he might not be the most talented top laner. We'll have to see. It seems like Winterfox prioritized synergy over maybe individual skill, and we'll have to see if that's going to be something that works out for them. I personally, I think it is. I think this team's going to perform very well. Alltech and Pobelter. Pobelter has been getting a lot of notoriety. He is obviously a solo queue god. He has several accounts in Challenger, or at least he did last season, season 4. And he also even went to Korea, started playing on their servers, and I want to say reached rank 37 on their Challenger ladder as well, which is pretty fucking high when you're going against, LCK or OGN players every game. So I definitely think that Pobelter has the individual talent. That was never an issue, in my opinion. Even going back to when he was talked about breaking into the scene and going on to Cursed, I was really excited to have him on the Cursed team. It was unfortunate how it played out. But I don't think talent has ever been the issue for Pobelter. I do think that, team synergy has always been kind of an issue for him, turning his lane dominance at times, or his laning skills, his team fighting skills into teamwork. I do think, because competitive LCS is a lot different than solo queue. Let's get that right out of the way, and that should be pretty obvious if you're an LCS fan. But I do think that Pobelter, Alltech, of course, showed signs of brilliance last season playing with Crepo, and I do think that both of those players are. I think this is going to be. There's a term that's used commonly in in athletic sports. Like this is their breakout year. I definitely feel that Pobelter and Alltech are going to have that breakout year this season. So CLG, all right. They added the additions of. They added the additions. No, they added Zion Spartan and Skara from Dignatas, even though they obtained them illegally. But nonetheless, I do think that that's a bad sign for the organization. I don't think they should be breaking the rules like that. It's very unprofessional and just doesn't set off a good precedence from the organization. But hopefully we won't be seeing any more fines going their way for the time being. I do know that Benny is supposedly going to be the starting top laner for Zion Spartan in the first week. Skara has obviously been banned from I guess coaching, his role with the team since the allegations, or I guess the confirmation of allegations. So I do think that this might be a team that struggles at the beginning. Scion Spartan is someone that, although he has a lot of individual talent, he can carry games. His Jax is very impressive. He has a lot of, he has actually a pretty deep champion pool. He's someone that I don't value as high as most people do. Most people consider him one of the best top laners in NA, and I do not. I do think that he is very inconsistent, in my opinion. And although he can carry some games, he can also lose some games for his team. I'm personally not a big fan of his play, but I definitely see what people see in him. So, with that being said, you know, I do think it's an improvement from Seraph. So there is that. Seraph performed extremely weak, and then of course, you know, the recent issues that have been coming out with him. I do hope that he can fix, because I do think that Seraph has a lot of potential. But nonetheless, that's another, you know, Team Dragonite issue. Um, Link. Yes, Link. Obviously, we have to talk about Link. Link is a player that's been getting so much criticism. I have not seen this much criticism of a player in the NALCS since Zuna. So, um, I don't know where all the, well, okay. I do know where all the hate is coming from. It's coming from his performance, because last season he performed extremely weak. Now, the thing that baffles me about Link is, I don't know if you guys remember, but if you remember during last year, the whole All Star event that took place, awesome event. Cloud9 had, unfortunately, High had that, what was it, like a punctured lung or something, and he wasn't able to make it to Europe to compete. So they brought Link from CLG, and he went over and competed for them. They performed pretty well, and Link performed very well. He performed very good, and I know I was extremely surprised to see him perform that well on such a big task. You're replacing the main shot caller for the best, well, at the time, the defending champions, North American champions. I don't know how many times at that point. In my opinion, the best NA team, and you have to fit in those giant shoes of High. I definitely think that he not only lived up to the expectations, but surpassed them. I thought he played extremely well. And then even when he came back, the start of the next split, he was performing very well, and people were like, wow. I remember people saying, man, they must have rubbed off on Link or something. He took Elimination's notebook or something, because he was performing extremely well. That was short-lived. He then proceeded to completely go on a downhill trend, and not and then during the playoffs it got even worse, and he got completely outplayed in that mid lane. So that being said, I do feel that there's a reason that CLG brought him back. If you do not remember, CLG did have tryouts. I remember it being public knowledge. They did have tryouts for the mid lane position, and they decided to keep Link. So with that being said, I do think there's a reason they brought him back. I do think that he can get to that level that they need him to be. And if he can, this can be a very successful team. They have a hell of a roster for this team, and I do think that they will be towards the top. You know, I have them number 5, but I could very easily see this team as a number 2 team if they can get their shit together and start winning again, because their bot lane is obviously amazing. One of the best bot lanes in North America. All right, let's go on to Team Impulse here. Impulse, we have Adrian from Robert Morris University. This is something I want to talk about because it's something that I didn't even know until I looked into it, or until a friend of mine told me and I looked into it. And that was something that surprised me. Adrian is actually from Robert Morris University. He is the first person to get a collegiate scholarship off of his for League of Legends and participate with them. And he is now in the LCS. I think this is a fantastic sign for the future of the LCS. This is really good, because who knows in the future? Obviously, the NACC is happening this year as well. I'm expecting a lot of universities, and hey, if you're a student that has somewhat authority or at least a passion, and you're attending a university or a college that can possibly compete, go out there and make it happen. You know, at least try. There's nothing wrong with trying. I definitely think that this is going to be the future of League of Legends with competitive league, that we're going to start seeing these guys come up from a school standpoint, competing at organizations that support team environments. And let's be honest, if you can come up as a solo queue player and climb the ladder, or if you had the choice to go with an organization like a school, or I guess it's not an organization, but like um, kind of. But if you had the opportunity to come up with the team environment and learn how to play, learn to take a professional standpoint from the get-go, that's obviously an advantage. And that's something that I think a lot of people are going to be doing, is attending these universities on a league scholarship, and then we're going to start seeing these schools groom these players to be ready for the LCS. And I do think that this is, if I'm not mistaken, this is already implemented in Korea. This is something that they've been doing. So I do think eventually it will follow suit over here, and we're going to start seeing players from universities come into the LCS as pretty talented players. So I really hope, unfortunately, I'm not too familiar with Adrian as a player. I really hope that he does succeed, that he does shine. I do think that he's in a great position. Team Impulse looks like a very strong team, and if they can get past the language barriers and the team synergy from being a new roster, I think this team can accomplish a lot. And I really hope and I really think that if they do, that will be a fantastic sign for the future of college esports in North America. Zhao Wei Zhao, Rush, and Impact are very good players that I wanted to touch on. Zhao Wei Zhao, in my opinion, was the best player last split. I don't believe he won the MVP, but man, is this guy talented. All the time I see Zhao Wei Zhao in the mid lane, he always wins lane. He always at least ties lane, I guess you can say. I always mostly see him get a 20 CS lead, which at the highest levels of play is very impressive, and then snowball that into like 4 kills. Zhao Zhao, I do think that he is going to have another very strong season. I do think that they brought in the talent necessary to succeed with this team. Impact is obviously a former world champion. Rush was formerly #1 in the Korean solo queue ladder. They have the talent there. It's just with this team, I definitely see a lot of I don't know, I don't even know if this is a word, but variability. Like I definitely think that if they succeed, they can go all the way up to competing for the championship. If they do not, if this backfires and they start struggling, I do think this can be a team that can very quickly find themselves on the low end of the NALCS, because NALCS just keeps improving. We got to realize, if you look back 2 seasons and look at that TSM, or that well, okay, maybe not 2 seasons, but if you look back like maybe 3 or 4 seasons, you look back at that TSM, that curse that competed, talent wise, I don't think they're equal at all. I think the talent has extremely improved, and with these last couple seasons, years, I guess you can say, and that's showing right now. And if you don't have that team synergy down, you are going to fall behind very quickly in the NALCS. So let's go ahead and move on to TSM. So we have Santorin coming in. Once again, not too familiar with Santorin myself. I'm still getting more into the EU LCS and stuff. So I do want to see if Santorin is going to be able to replace Amazing and even be better than Amazing. Because I do think that Amazing had points where he was extremely weak he was kind of a weak spot for TSM with his champion pool. If I recall correctly, if he didn't get Lee Sin, his win percentage wasn't that great for a while. I know he was trying to force the Elise pick at times, and it just didn't work out. So hopefully Santorin can bring a little bit more to the champion pool, to the diversity of these team comps that TSM can bring out. I do feel that he is going to perform pretty well from what I've seen. I do think that TSM as a team is going to perform pretty well. But that being said, we still have some issues with TSM. Wild Turtle still for unexplained reasons, goes so hyphy at times where you kind of question his decision making. And of course, when one of your star players, because Wild Turtle is a star player of TSM in my opinion, he's one of their most talented mechanically. When you have a player of that caliber making stupid decisions at times, that's not good. You know, when you're at the highest stages, you can't afford shit like that because you're going against people that even the slightest mishap, they're going to take advantage. So a big fuck up is going to mean a big response from them, and that can be a dragon, a baron, a nexus. So another thing I want to talk about, how they performed at IEM, losing to the Unicorns of Love. A lot of people are saying that, this may be the year of the downfall of TSM. I'm not going that far. I definitely think that they did not perform well. But then again, you got to look, in my opinion, Unicorns of Love are the real deal. They definitely are not your standard new LCS team. They look like they can fucking compete right up there with Fnatic and Elements and shit like that. I think Unicorns of Love are going to be a very strong team, and so are TSM. And of course, one thing I want to talk about too, Lustboy. Lustboy, I thought played fantastic last season. I thought he was one of the Korean imports. I want to say there were more, but he was one of the Korean imports worldwide that was very successful. They won the NA LCS, and he was on that roster in his first season. Mechanically, the guy is a beast. He has made some amazing plays from a support, and as a support main, hey, good shit. Keep it up, man, because I think Lustboy is going to have a fantastic season, continue improving, and I think Lustboy and Wild Turtle, and of course Bjergsen thrown in there, are going to be the main reason why TSM has a successful season this split. All right, let's move on to Team Liquid. Team Liquid, formerly Curse. Obviously, the change, Voyboy leaving, I'm very sad to see, unfortunately. I completely understand, though. He wants to kind of figure out which direction he wants to take in life, which is obviously more important than playing video games for money. I completely understand that decision, and best of luck to him. He was my favorite player, and I definitely look forward to seeing him hopefully compete at the highest level again. But the most important thing is that the players are happy. So I definitely wish him the best. That being said, Team Liquid also replaced Cop with Piglet and brought in Phoenix from the Jin Air organization of OGN or LCK. And wow, those are some talented fucking players. Piglet, obviously former world champion, kind of has the Wild Turtle syndrome. In my opinion, he is like a much better Wild Turtle. Me personally, I think he's going to dominate. I really do. I don't see him struggling in this NALCS. Mechanically, he is just way too gifted. And, of course, he can always fall back to that vein and just shit on people. He even did it in OGN at times where it's just, hey, we're struggling. Of course, over there, they usually had the 3-game sets or the best of 3. So you would see game 3, Piglet would bring out Vayne and just wreck most of the time. Unfortunately, we don't have that best of 3 format until the playoffs, I believe. Yeah. But I do think that he has the talent to probably be the MVP this season. He's my prediction, and I will get to that's a subject for another video, a little sneak peek. But I do think that Piglet will be the MVP for this split and is going to have a huge impact on the NALCS. Quas, I've been watching a lot of his stream recently. More so than a lot of others. And man, this guy, he had a great LCS split, in my opinion. He was one of the top performing KDA wise, win percentage wise, I believe, and in the LCS last season. And I do think that that's going to carry over. I think he is a fantastic top laner. The champion pool is endless. He can play almost anything top lane, and he is a very safe player. He's not going to. And that can be a little bit of a disadvantage because you don't necessarily get him to carry a lot of games, But you're also not going to get him 0-7 and completely be out of a game. That's something that I just don't see from Quas. Mechanically, he's very strong. Decision making, I think he's very strong for the most part. And I do think that he will have a very good season this year and be an integral piece to the success of Team Liquid. I also want to mention as well, Team Liquid and formerly Cursed has always been one of the top teams in terms of having that team infrastructure there. I know that they have a hired sports psychologist on their staff. That just shows the length that Steve Liquid 112, who I idolize. I think he's a fantastic owner. He is exactly in the position that I want to be in the future. So, shout out to Liquid 112. I definitely think that he brings a perfect environment for a team to succeed if the players have the right mind frame. And, you know, coming from an owner, I remember, being an NBA fan, I've always admired Mark Cuban because he would go the extra mile. He would go that extra mile to make sure that his players are happy, are comfortable, and make sure that there's no excuse that they can say from the organization. They can't say, well, I kind of blame the team because um, for how we perform. No, it's on you as a player. And that can maybe build a little bit of pressure, but realistically, having that environment to succeed, I think gives them a huge advantage over other organizations that they're competing against. And I do think that that's a great sign for the future of Team Liquid, and I do think that they will be very successful this season. I have them at number 2, but I could very easily see them overtake the number 1 position if guys like Quas, Piglet, and have a good enough season. So let's go ahead and move on to Cloud9, who I have finishing number 1. I don't think that they have been dethroned yet. I know last season they made it to the finals and they lost against TSM. I was actually very surprised last season when they lost. I thought they were going to win that as well. But this season, I think they have that determination. They proved in the past that they're not scared, and they're not scared to compete and to come back from losses. I remember when they had that amazing split, the next one they came back and I think they lost 1 or 2 games in like Super Week or something like that, or 1 or 2 or 3 games in Super Week, and people were like, "Wow, is C9, is this the end?" No, they bounced right back, and before you knew it, people were looking towards Dignatas and look how good Dignatas is and blah blah blah. And before you knew it, by the time week 7 rolled around, Cloud9 was number 1 again. They had slowly climbed back into the number 1 position, and I don't think they relinquished it once they had it. So, I mean, I just feel that shows the determination that they have as an organization. I think that they have a very good idea, something that I think LCS teams overlook. Obviously, team synergy plays a big part. I've been mentioning it. I've said it probably about 12 times in this video thus far. I think it's tremendously important when it comes to LCS teams. Sorry, excuse me. I completely forgot my train of thought. But they have that determination. They proved it in the past, and I do think that even if they start off to a poor start, because the NA has improved, in my opinion, yet again, that by the end of the season they are going to get their shit together, and they are going to come back and be towards the top of the standings. I have them at number 1. I can easily see them being top 3, almost guaranteed. Another thing that I want to say is that Cloud9, not only are they not scared of turmoil or losing, they're not scared of innovation either. If you recall, there's been plenty of strategies that have originated in the NA scene, at least, from Cloud9. Of course, probably the most notable would be the Ashe Zyra lane, which I fucking loved. I thought it was fantastic, and they played it extremely well. But definitely don't be surprised if you see, especially with all these changes coming in season 5, you got the new jungle, several new champions that have very unique gameplay styles. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a strategy that we may have never seen before in the top levels of play, just created from Cloud9, because this team is not scared of innovation. They will be the first to try something and see if it works, and usually it does work for them because they are so talented. And I do think that at every position they have a player that can compete at the top levels of the NALCS, and that is going to lead to a very good showing this split. And I do have very high expectations for them. If I had to predict a champion at the end of this spring split, I would say it would be Cloud9. Yes. So this long ass card full of notes is done. Thanks you guys for watching. This video was probably 30 minutes longer than I anticipated, but you know, I guess this can kind of be my NALCS preview with the power rankings, and I pretty much covered everything I wanted to talk about. I appreciate you guys once again for watching. Remember to like the video, comment in the section below. If you have any future video topics that you want me to discuss, feel free to throw it, and I most likely will do it. I will get around to it, even if it wouldn't be immediately. So once again, my name is Gilbert with Dizzy Gaming, or Lala Lakers, and thanks for watching, and I will see you guys later. Can't wait for the NALCS. Good luck to everyone out there watching and betting and competing in the LCS.